I just felt, I've came a long way. Let's just say I've came a long, long way. And, when I get asked to stand in front of, or sit in front of a college student, it's an opportunity and a blessing that many wouldn't understand because, in the United States, I would say opportunity is everywhere, but when you come from Africa, opportunity is very rare to come across. So, I would like to thank everyone for even having me here. And I went to the Liberian War at the age of 10 years old. Well, the war started in 1989, when I was 9. Now you know my age. When I was 9, going on 10 years old. And I say war is like a change, a shift in your destiny. One morning you can wake up with just everything normal. You have a goal, you have a plan, and the next minute everything is different. And when the war started in Liberia, I think it started in June or July, if I remember. And it was a morning, like every other morning, getting ready to go to school. My mother was going to be celebrating her birthday that weekend. So I remember her, talking about, oh, you hurry up and get in the car. And, my father was a little, blessed, so we always had a driver. So he's, oh, get in the car and let's go to school. So we get outside, and before we leave for school, normally we go fetch water down the hill. So I remember that morning going down the hill, fetching water, come back, and we were all standing on the porch. And when we look straight up ahead, which is kind of like a, because where we live was a new area, so a lot of the places were filled with trees and stuff. And I believe that's probably why they picked our area, because it was kind of in the bush, you would call it. So we saw people with red bandana, walking in a queue, in a line, just walking to the bushes. And everyone was like, I wonder what is that for? Now, in front of our house, this is my house, right in front, opposite my house, is a poultry farm. So we had a huge poultry farm. Not for us, but it was right, the owner, the house was right in front of us. So the next thing we heard, we went inside, because everyone got very scared. I remember like everyone, screaming. And there's a movie that I always relate to, I don't know, it's by Bruce Willis. It's called The Sunrise or something like that, and it's a war movie. And I've only been able to watch that movie for the first 2 to 3 minutes. That's how real that movie is to me, because it really is. People think it's a movie, but it really is real life. Like, this is what war is, okay? And the next minute, we just heard a boom, like a loud noise, and everyone looked to the window, and the poultry farm ahead of us, in front of us, was like just blown up. And that was the beginning I always say, that's the beginning of the shift of destiny for lots of Liberians. It's like after that day, the next minute, I mean, once you hear the boom, the war, the bomb, everyone's running, everyone come outside, look, oh my God, the poultry farm is on fire, and everyone is wondering. The next thing you hear is literally when you're watching the movie and you guys are hearing this bullet sound, like it's actually real. Like, that's really how real it is. Like, all we heard was bullet. No one know who it was going to hit. All we know is everyone's running for their lives. And you hearing the missiles being, and this went from, I would say it went from like 5 minutes of normal morning to just the rest of your life is just filled with distraction. And we ran, no stopping, of course, because you don't know what's going on. No one is telling you, there is a war going on. You have no idea. And at the age of 10, I remember running until we got nighttime. The gunshot never stopped. Dead bodies on the floor. And at 10 years old, one thing that I do remember clearly is that never left my memory was a dead body of a man who was burned. Like, he was burned to the extent where his body was so swollen, and you poke because you're curious at 10. I poked and it just went in, you know, and I never could get that out of my head. And you seeing this dead body, but you also hearing the missiles, you also hearing the gunshot. And we ran and ran and ran nonstop. I tell my children, they say, Mommy, did you ever stop? I was like, if you call stopping for about 10 seconds and then hearing another gunshot and then running, like we ran. I remember at the age of 10, I ran so much. When we finally got to a stop to a place called Fennel, which was a college, one of the biggest colleges in Liberia. And from where my house was to Fennel is like running from here to Seaside and back more than 4 times. And that's how long we walked. And at the age of 10, I just kept. So when we got to Fennel, it was like a rescue area. So everyone, I mean, it was just filled with people, and I mean, from all ages. It's it's like a big building, and you have people just laying on the floor, bleeding. You know, people screaming because their children are dead, laying next to them, and you wondering to yourself, like, is this really? And this is all happening in less than a day. Like, everything just was so fast that it's hard to just put together, okay? And in Fennel, we were there for about, I would say, 1 week. You know, we go to the villages, you get your cassava. It's an African food, which was the easiest to eat around that time, because cassava, you don't have to cook it. You can eat it raw, so you peel it with your teeth, of course. And mind you, I had my little sister who was a baby. At that time, she was only 2 years old. They were twins. So when the chaos was going on, I went this way with my little sister, and my mother and my entire family went this way. So to the entire war, it was just me and my baby sister. So I was a 10-year-old girl fighting with her 1 year and a half baby sister. And all I remember is running to the bushes, the forest. We were because I'm gonna rewind back. When we were at the Fennel, which is the college, we were there for a week, and over a week period, we heard everyone screaming, "Oh, the rebels are coming! Prince Johnson rebels are coming! Prince Johnson rebels are coming!" And of course, once you hear that, it's time to get out of there because they're about to bomb that place. And everyone started running, and this is just me and my little sister laying. I mean, this floor, like this bare floor. You're not even thinking of anything else. Just be grateful you have a floor. You know, we got up. I grabbed her hand, ran down the stairs. Everyone was screaming, everyone was running. I went this way, my family went that way. And that was the last time I saw my mother, my father, my brothers, and my sisters. It was only me and my little 1.5-year-old sister. And I didn't even notice I was missing. You know, I didn't even notice that we were separated until, I would say, hours of running, when we finally felt we couldn't hear any gunshots, which normally will be in the forest. When you go deep in the forest, I mean, it's like when I'm watching the movies, like they must have had experience to create such movie, because you go deep in the forest, and that's where you get peace. And you know, you're not afraid of animals, because the gunshot is also scaring the animals, so you don't have to worry about anyone. And at least I didn't come in contact with any animals. But you know, we went to the forest for days, and up to now, I still have a blurry memory of how I survived that with my baby sister. Because what I remember, if I can even share this, I ran so much that my underwear stretched. It got so big that it couldn't fit me anymore. And it was like a hinder in the way of me running. So I just took it off, and I remember the entire time to the wall, I did not have on any underwear. And all I cared about was my baby sister eating, my baby sister drinking, And mind you, the water we are drinking is the same water we are running through. So this is not like a clean water that you know. This is dirty water. You just have to wait and patch it a little bit, spread a little bit, and you get a sip. So I went to this war with my baby sister, fighting for food. My main food I ate was cassava. If any one of you ever meet a Liberian, ask them about cassava. Cassava is a plant, and you can, like I said, you can eat it raw and it wouldn't be harmful. So I lived on cassava, and we finally got to a stop where we were away from Prince Johnson rebels. So we were on the other side, finally free, feeling some ounce of freedom. And I remember one of the army guy giving me a bomb, and he opened the bomb and he said, "You toss the bomb, and if you can keep that bomb in your hand, it will save your life. But remember, Kodan, when that bomb falls, you are gone." And this is real life. This is actual. This is real life. Okay, so it's a lot for who I am today. That's how much this is. And I remember holding it in my hands, and I was so scared. But at the same time, he's screaming at you that do it, do it, do it. And I tossed it. I remember probably like 2 or 3 times, and he just took it out of my hands, and went by his business. And mind you, at that whole time, it was just me and my baby sister. So everybody that I was surrounded by were all strangers, never seen them before. And you see women leaving their children and going by their business. People holding their parents into the wheelbarrows. And when they tire pushing the parents into the wheelbarrows, they just leave the wheelbarrow with the parents in there and they run away. So it was not anywhere you can go for refuge, because everyone was also seeking refuge. So even though I was 10, there was no one really looking at me like, "Oh, you 10-year-old, come here, let me help you." That person also needs help. So it was just like a world of chaos for at least, because I was through the war for 8 months. And out of that 8 months, every single day was the same, because you wake up and to gunshots. Okay? You wake up to people screaming. Now, one of these things that stuck in my head was, we walk in a straight path, because that's how it happens when war starts. Everyone goes, we're all walking down this long line, and you have the rebels screaming, and these rebels will pick what kind of woman they want at that specific time. So let's say they see a little girl who they believe is, she's a virgin, and they'll pick her, and all you hear is someone screaming in the back, and then a gunshot. So then you know that after they did that to the person, they killed that person. And then they would just pull a guy who they believe, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but someone they think is overweight in there, because in my culture, when you have weight, it means you are enjoying life. Okay, it means life is good for you. So normally when they saw that, they pull you out, because "Oh, you got a lot of money, you look like you're not suffering. This is a war, you're supposed to be looking like you're suffering." So they pull that person out, take that person behind a building, and the next thing you hear is gunshots. That person is gone. So I lived the entire 8 months with hearing gunshot, gunshot, gunshot. Now, it happened over a period of 4 months straight, and we finally got peace. Finally, we got peace. Prince Johnson, because Charles Taylor, his people came, and they were trying to overtake Prince Johnson. So therefore, when you go onto Charles Taylor's side, you'll be protected by that rebel. If you're on Prince Johnson's side, there's a higher chance that you could get killed. And over that time, they were killing people according to their tribes. So, and most Africans, we have tribal marks. So they could tell that, okay, you have this mark, so you're from Ghana, and they will kill you. Or you and the president that is in office right now are from the same tribe, so then they will kill you. So over time, they killed so many, like they wiped away tribes, they wiped away families. Now, when we finally got peace, because we went to Charles Taylor's side of the war, I remember, we finally were sitting down, people eating, the supermarkets were actually a little open, because when you're in a country of war, there is no such thing as money. And that's why I tell people that I respect money, I get it, but I don't think money is the answer to life. Because during the war, I saw rich people couldn't do nothing with their money because the supermarket or the shop that they were going to use the money was already breaking into. So money was so worthless at a time period in Liberia that it was sad. You can have money and you have nothing to use that money for because nothing is there. Everything is breaking into. So money can be, but when you're in a country of war, money is not the for me, from what I saw at my age, money was not the factor. There were a lot of rich people that could not use their money to save their lives. Now, when there was one morning when I woke up and I saw a lot of people surrounded at this specific area, and I ran to see what it was with my baby sister, and what I saw was a guy laying down. This side, everything in his brain was on a zinc. I don't know if you all know what a zinc is, like the zinc. So they put we use the zinc to put the body on top. So this guy's entire brain was laying on top of the zinc, and he was just, because they had tied him up and then shot him. So he was laying down with his hand tied and his head down and his brains on the side of his body. And at age of 10, if you see something like that, yeah, it was a moment where I told myself, if I can ever get out of here, I will have to come back and make a difference to people here. If only because I didn't believe at that age that anybody would survive. I just figured everybody in Liberia was going to die, including me. I just figured we were all going to die. And when I saw that, the next 5 minutes we heard gunshots. And then it all started again, the missiles, the bombing, and then we started running again. And I remember finally after a month or two, I was sitting in front of this house, me and my little sister, because this whole time I was in the street. We sleep outside, we wake up outside, you walk around, you find food, and our favorite food was what you call pankana. Pankana is like a nut. It's a nut, so you crack it, and that we live. I mean, we came to a time in Liberia that they were selling that nut because that was like the only food you could really get, and the nut was, let's say if it's like 5 different nuts, that was like about 25 cents. So it's like people were living and surviving off of just this little pankana. So me and my little sister sitting out there eating the pankana, and then this woman come by and she's like, "Oh, I remember, you look familiar." And long story short, come to find that she and my grandfather and my father went to the same church. So she recognized me when they used to take me to church. So she was like, "I know your grandfather, I know your dad. They were really good people to me." So she took me and my little sister in. And she fed us. She gave us everything that we wanted for food. We were actually in her home. And then in 1990, the first ship came from Ghana to Liberia to take the Liberian refugees. And she was a Ghanaian because my father is a Ghanaian and my mother is a Liberian. So she was a Ghanaian, and she, without my consent, took my little sister but left me behind. Now, leaving me behind meaning leaving me off the ship because we had to get on the ship. And to get on the ship is not like a normal cruise where they put the stairs and you have to walk up. We were actually lifted into containers, like the container. That's how I got on the ship. Like we were packed into the container, and yeah, if you can make it, people even died before they could even get onto the ship from the container because the lift goes so slowly that it was so packed. You have hundreds of people in that container trying to get onto the ship. So that's how that's how most of us Liberians got onto the ship. We had to get into the container, and the container lifted us onto the ship. Now when the container lifted me onto the ship, it was like, wow, like this is over. All you can see is just people fighting to get to where you are. but you are already there, and you just feel so lucky because children falling into the water, because the ship always has a little space between the ship and the dock. So you had a lot of people falling into the water, parents, children, babies. I mean, so much destruction, so much destruction. And when I finally got onto the ship by myself, I never saw my baby sister until we got to Ghana. When I arrived in Ghana, we were lots of, yeah, we were about thousands of refugees, hundreds, I would say, not thousands, but hundreds of refugees. And when we landed in Ghana, so I was one of the first refugees that landed in Ghana. And the day we landed in Ghana was one of still my most best days ever of my life, because I never ate so much like I ate that day, because they had so much food. And when I got to Ghana, I was hoping my story will end, the pain will end, but that was also just another beginning, of the aftermath of a child that has been through war. What happens after she leaves the war zone? So when I left and came to Ghana, I finally saw my baby sister, because the Ghanaians had a lot of buses taking refugees, Liberian refugees from the city to the camp. And on the bus, I saw the lady, and she was I'm so sorry, I was on the container and trying to pull you up, it couldn't happen. So, me and my little sister, we finally connected, and I had my little sister to take my vaccination. They were giving all Liberians vaccine. I gave my little sister to a woman to please hold for just 1 second, and I was going to take my vaccine. I took my vaccine and I turned around and my sister was gone. So my sister was missing. I never saw her again until I got in Ghana in 1990. I never saw my baby sister until 1995. And I left that refugee camp. I left the city, went to the refugee camp, stayed at the refugee camp. And being on the refugee camp was also one of the worst experience, because you get adopted sometimes by the wrong people, and they treat you as slaves, because that's how I was treated. Like I was adopted, and adopted meaning you're one of those kids they find on the street, so you would do whatever it takes to get that home. And this woman and her family, took me in, and pretty much I was the maid. We call that maid. I was their maid servant. So they eventually adopted me to another parent. So I was adopted to another Ghana family, and this lady from Cape Coast had no daughters, so I was like her only child. And that's where I knew what the level of poverty is, because at the age of 11, 12, 13, I used to sell soup. And we carry the soup on our head, and during that process I got molested a few times by the guys that were buying the soup from me. So over the years, my experience of going to the Liberian War, missing my sister, never found my sister when I came to Ghana, and then having to find out that after all these years I thought my sister was missing, she actually was not missing. She was intentionally taken away from me, which is a whole nother painful story of my life, and I can't really get into that. But my sister was not missing this whole time. I come to find out she was taken away from me by my father's side of the family, because my father was not, I was his stepchild, they didn't take me, they left me. So when the woman took my sister onto the ship, she already had a plan that I'm taking only this child. And she forgot to know that I really did love my sister. So I really thought my sister was missing. And after I went 3 years without seeing my sister, I went to the poverty of poverty in Ghana, suffering. Didn't start school right away. It took me a while to finally start school, because the lady that I lived with wasn't financially responsible to get me into school. Eventually, I started school. So I started school, I would say, a year or two late than most kids did. And to my schooling in Ghana, it was like I was in Cape Coast. Cape Coast is once the capital city of Ghana. And I was in Cape Coast for 3 years. One day in the classroom, just like this, the teacher calls me. He said, "Oh, someone is here to see you." And I go outside. Who do I see? My grandfather. And I'm wondering, how did you know I was here? Like a lot of questions was running through my head. But I was more happy to see him because I haven't seen him since 1989, since the war. So when I saw him, he told me that, "Oh, your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, everyone's here." So he takes me, I get to my parents' house, I didn't even know existed, and guess who I see? My baby sister that I thought was missing this whole time. Now I'm sharing this story just to get you guys a little sense of where I am today and the reason why I'm so privileged to be here. Because I feel that the odds that life threw against me since the age of 9, 10, and 11, I can say I went through almost a decade of my life just going through struggles and going through disappointment. And but in all, my biggest pain that I still haven't been able to fulfill is feeling neglected. Because I felt, not only did I go to the war by myself, but when I also went to Ghana, I felt neglected by my parents, I felt neglected by everyone around me. So the war, the Liberian War, showed me at such an early age that the world sometimes will turn their back against you, but you really have to fight the odds to make it to where you want to be. And when I left Cape Coast and met my mother, my whole life changed. That's when life became normal. That's when I said I had a normal life where I went to middle school, I went to high school, and I had a great high school, I had a great middle school. So life finally, came back normal for me. And then in 1999, my uncle, he got elected on the asylum program to come to the United States. And I was one of the people, he added on the list to come here with him. So I moved to the United States in 2000 and came here in June of 2000. And since I've been here, it has been a roller coaster. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But in all, everything that I've learned is that the war taught me how to be strong. And the war also taught me how people should not be so quick to go for war. Because in the end, the war never affects the people that is going for. It totally always affects the innocent children. Because I had no idea that morning what my President Doe was talking about. I had no idea who he made a deal with, but all I knew was all my friends, and I'm actually one of the few people that can honestly say all the people I knew when I was growing up are no more. I don't have a childhood friend. A lot of people have childhood friends, but I don't have a childhood friend. I don't remember a lot of things that went on in my childhood because the war, we and most Liberians didn't have that opportunity to do counseling. That's something that we never have in Africa. So you go through this war and you never have the opportunity to heal. So majority of us are just stuck with this. So being here today is like a side of healing for me because I get to share this painful side of me that I normally wouldn't sit down and talk with people. Both my kids are all, they were born here, and my 14-year-old, one day we were driving and the tire popped. And I'm telling you guys, I screamed so loud and she couldn't stop laughing. And I'm like, you have no idea. At the age of 10, you know what I heard? Even though I was 10, that trauma still stays with me up to today. When I hear any firecrackers, July 4th, people come downtown, watch the fireworks. I do it for my family, but every time I hear that, it's just a whole bunch of memory going through my head. Like, oh my God, what if this, what if in the midst of this something really does happen? So there is always that, and since then, I have not felt comfortable to go to Liberia. I haven't. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't ever. I'm like, because I still feel that what if I'm there and the gunshot goes off, something happens, you guys think it's normal right now, but what if it's not normal? So that fear, so the war puts so much fear of you being able to just enjoy life in that normal way. You always have it in the back of your head. What if something happens? What if something happens? Even with my children, it's like, oh my God, what if they go to school and and then when you hear the guns, things that's going on, the gun violence, so it's like going to the war. All I want to share with you guys today is when people are supporting the cause of war, they also have to think very deeply how much they are also supporting the innocent people, in my opinion, that are dying. Because I was once that innocent child in Liberia that had nothing to do with what my government was doing, but it changed my life and put me through so much pain. I lost my friends, I lost my family, and I'm here at the age of 38, and I have uncles and aunties that I never saw since I was 9 years old. And not because I choose to, but because the war took me on that route. So even coming to the United States and being here, I can stay away from my mother for almost 17 years, almost 18 years, and don't miss her as much as I should. And I really believe over time that it's because of the Trump. Like, I went through so much in the war that I'm not afraid of being by myself. And it hurts me that I saw a child who has a mother and can stay away and don't feel that missing. Like, oh, I want to see my mom, I miss her. I just feel like I went through so much that it took away my, a little bit of my emotional side because of all the trauma that I saw. One main thing I saw that really bothered me was seeing, and this is true, you guys probably seen it in the movie, I saw it real life, a baby being taken out of the belly. That exists. It happened. It was very common. The soldiers were doing it like it was almost every pregnant woman they saw, guaranteed they had splitting your stomach and taking that baby out. And when they hold the baby, it's not like they pull and they don't care how that mother is dying. And people were eating some of the parts. When they pulled the parts out, they ate the parts because it gave them a sense of power, So, and when the war started in Liberia, let me tell you guys, any baby that could talk, so long you start to say mama, dada, they gave you a gun. So you had babies at the age of 5 holding guns, shooting women and people that are way older than, and they had no idea what they were doing. So a lot of Liberians are here today, and we are having a lot of problem in the Liberian community because lots of Liberians here are products of the Liberian Civil War, and it has affected them so mentally that when we come here, we so quick to get into the game, because that's where they get that connection from. Because majority of them here were products of the war. They've held guns before. They've dealt, with rebels. So when they come here, you see that Liberians are the ones that are very into, into the system are so quick to join the gangs because of what they've seen, because of what they've been a part of. So I'm just thankful that, I saw my own experience more in the way of life can change at any moment. You can move from being good and your whole life can change. But the way you come out of it and the way you see it is really how, what matters. So for me to be here right now and sharing this story with you guys and letting everyone know that, you can come from a product of war and still see the world in a light. You don't always have to be in that dark, because you can choose to stay in the dark or you can choose to be in the light. And when you go to war years and years and years and see so many dead and seeing so many changes in life, when you see the light, it's more better, in my opinion. When I finally saw freedom and when I finally saw that, I'm not going to die. I'm actually going to live. Things actually going to be okay. I felt more heading towards that side. So when I'm looking at people, when I meet people, I only focus on the good side of that person, and no matter what bad they have in them, I feel like I've seen worse. Because what I saw in Liberia, to me, it's unthinkable for another man to do something like that to their fellow man. So I always try to see the good in people. And being here today, I want to thank you so much, so much, because I wrote this down and I'm calling all my family in Africa. That's why I haven't recorded this, because in Africa right now, me being here, I am a little celeb, because nobody imagined me to be here and talking in front of college student about my life. I didn't think my life was any important. I didn't think it was worth anyone listening. So thank you. I hope this actually, make a difference to people, and I hope you'll take the story, so then when you support anyone who supports war, please kind of figure out that you are also enabling innocent children and changing their lives. I'm not saying I'm not grateful for where I am, but I never know where I was going to be. So nobody wants their life to be changed without their permission. And I felt like that's what happened with me. My life was totally changed without my permission. And whatever happens to me today, I feel many, many times that I had no choice but to be where I was, whether it's good or it's bad. But if the war never started in Liberia, I feel like I will have a more sense of the importance of my family. But now, because of the war, family is good, but it's not, I can do without it. So war, in my opinion, really destroyed kids. It gave me a lot of anger. So when for example, when I was married, I'm always angry. You tell me something and I'm angry, and then my husband said, why were you always angry? Why are you always angry? I felt like it's because I saw so many, and most of the people that were doing the evil things were all men. So I created this anger towards guys, where a man couldn't tell me anything, and I'm just ready to jump on you. So it had to take me, and I'm not the only one. There are so many Liberian women that have that anger because of what we've been through with men. So I just feel like the war, it breaks home, it breaks people's heart, it destroys the way you see life. If you see life in a good way, the war can totally change the way you see life and just really have a detachment for the way you see people and the way you see yourself. So please, if you guys can hear anything, the only thing I want you to take out of this from me today is the fact that when you support in war, you are also supporting, in my opinion, the innocent lives that will be destroyed. The innocent lives that will be destroyed, including mine, that was destroyed at that time. It took me a while to be here. It took me a very long time. And I started going to manhood. I had my second child. She turned 11, and I just felt like, what's my purpose of coming to America? I went to the war. I survived it. Now I'm in America. What is my purpose? Why am I here? Am I really here just to be, everyone wants to come to America? And I told myself, well, do you remember at the age of 10, you told yourself, if you ever made it, you were going to go home and make a difference? And I said, yes. So how do I start that? I went to Manhood Community College that day. I applied, and Bill, such a huge influence, always letting me know, you can make it. And sometimes I'm like, Bill, you're a white man, so you can say that. And he's like, no, you can really, really make it. And I went to Manhood, and I faced so much challenges in Manhood coming from Africa, okay? Because the barrier of language. So I kind of lost interest because I got tired of always being like 30 minutes behind everyone. When the teacher is teaching, I'm always behind because I don't understand the language. It goes very fast. So I was facing a lot of barriers, and I just really facing my own financial problems and stuff. So I just stopped for a while. But then I felt like, okay, me stopping school, and I only had 6 months to go, only 6 months to go. But I lost so much interest because of the barriers, the financial barriers. I just felt like I kept bugging the teachers. Everyone is done teaching, understanding, and I'm the only one always raising my hands. So I stopped. And when after like what 3 months, I was like, okay, I have to do something. So I went to cable radio. I had my pitch. I had what I wanted to do on the radio. I went there. I presented it to the programmer over there, and that I also have my doubt because of my language, my accent. But it didn't stop me. It really didn't stop me. I went there. I gave my pitch, and the next day, cable radio called me and they said, "Oh, you can go ahead and have your show." And they said, "Well, how many hours? What do you want to do? Give me your idea. Give me your." And I was a little nervous because I want to focus on the African community, but is this going to be possible in America for me to be on the radio, for people to understand me? And you know what? They believed in me. They gave me my own section. So I also do radio show. I do radio at cable. I'm on cable every first Thursday of the month. I do a show called Africa Oye. I play African music, talk about African news, do interviews. So it's like leaving from Liberia, the war, going to Ghana, going to molestation, rape, and all those trouble that life comes with, and being on the radio, and now I'm being here talking to you guys. I feel like it's just God's way of letting you know that no matter what you go through, in the end, so long you don't give up, you will really get to where you want to be. So you don't give up, you don't stop, you just keep going until you reach that destiny. So although I didn't complete my hood, it didn't stop me from getting my goal for why I started my hood. You were with me, oh my goodness. Yes, she was one of the people that used to encourage me all the time. Oh wow. Sierra. Oh, so nice to meet you. Again, Sierra.
Wave, Sierra.
Yeah, she's one of the people at my hood that, was like, wow, you're doing a great job. Wow, so good to see you. So you see, it didn't stop me from where I was. I still felt like, although I didn't complete my hood, I still wanted to make a difference. And today, I am working in Liberia, working one specific case of a little boy who has the HPV virus in Liberia. He was born with HPV, he got it from his mother, and he never got treated because we don't have the resources out there for him to get treated. So this HPV virus grew into, I don't know if you guys have heard of what you call the tree man disease. It's a disease that grows layers of skin on you. So your body turns into a tree because it keeps growing, it keeps growing. And now he's 7 years old, and he's at the point where within the next 2 to 3 years, he could be very consumed with the virus and likely to die. So I've been working with this little boy. We did a GoFundMe. And so to me, that's my way of helping Africa. That's my way of giving back to Liberia. And the only reason why I can do that is because I just never give up. I really never give up. No matter what life throws at me, I'm constantly fighting it and moving forward, no matter what it comes at me. And today I just want to thank you guys for having me here. I want to thank you for listening to my story, and I hope this story will inspire someone to really understand that no matter what you go through in life, you can always survive. A little girl from Liberia was nothing. Still, to me, isn't nothing getting there. But to be where I am today is only the will to make it and the will to survive. So I thank everyone for listening to my story. I thank you guys so much.
Let's all take a short break and come back in about